Warhammer have announced the new Army box sets.
I think that these are some of the best looking boxes.
Are they the way to go with planning an army?
How can I have it looking nice and how can I be happy with it without putting all of that time into it? Was there one that seriously tempted you?
I'm probably going to say... Hello everyone and welcome to Paint Perspective episode 77. Today we're going to talk about the new Warhammer Christmas box sets and if they are actually a good deal, how we would paint them. Also, we're going to be doing our regular segments like the news, question of the week, and of course our hobby hacks. But first, Joe, you might have seen, got a little bit of a surprise this week.
Yeah, but what is it? Yeah, but it's only a surprise
He doesn't
to
know
me.
it's a surprise. does he?
Everyone
Ruin
knows.
the surprise.
Everyone else knows about it apparently, so it's only a surprise to me.
It's a mystery
Okay,
segment.
well, I've just titled this mystery segment on the show notes because I didn't want you to know specifically.
You've got a very suspicious looking box.
I've got a suspicious looking box here, which I'm going to pass to you now. And I'm going to ask you to open that while I explain.
Is it like your sick model or something?
So we've actually had a gift in from an anonymous viewer who wished not to be named, but I think you're going to like it, Joe.
That's insane. What do you mean?
So do you want to explain what you got there for listeners?
This is one of the models that I put on my bucket list, but it was like worth a stupid amount of money on like eBay and stuff. Why am I holding one?
We had a very lovely viewer, thank you very much, you know who you are, who had one on hand, and they very much wanted you to have it, Joe.
That is unbelievable. Am I being like punk?
No, this is fully legit.
Is this going to
pop
crumble
out
in my
the corner
hand?
and it's gonna
This
jump
is
out
actually
under the
made
table.
from like cookie dough.
No,
and
it's legit, real deal.
Wow. Okay. Well,
That's awesome.
thank you. I suppose I've got to paint it now.
Yeah.
I've got some pressure on.
No excuses. Get on with it.
Well, thank you very much, mystery viewer. Yeah. Yeah. Do they just not want to be like publicly known, or can I know so that I can thank them?
I'll tell you
or-
after. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
That's awesome.
I'm just going to have to go up the priority list. I
The
think.
quality of that is actually really, really good.
I mean,
it's an old model, so I wasn't expecting the world, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's insane. It looks perfect. So very exciting. I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. But,
George has had his refreshers.
Yeah, you've had
He's got his
refreshers.
kit, yeah. That's nice.
I've
I'm quite
had-
keen on a Lamborghini. If anyone
Amazing. Well, don't know what to say about that. That's very surprising, isn't
I
it?
know.
Does that get put ahead of the Dark Angels in the queue, do you think?
Well, it goes ahead on the what do I want to sit down and paint? Because I definitely just want to pay some attention to this model now.
This might give me a fighting chance. Listeners, if you could send Joe more stuff, that might bail me out.
However, where I'm a little bit out of, I was explaining before, I'm a little bit out of sort of practice with regular painting.
Yeah.
So I think in my mind, I'm, wanting to do this model justice. It's a bucket list model that was explaining the other week. So maybe completing the army, I think maybe it's actually motivated me to complete the army more. Again, I'm just keep getting motivation to complete the army.
It's like a treat miniature for when you finish.
Yeah, so that
something else.
now once I finish this first chunk of the army,
Yeah.
the 1,000 points, this is my treat.
It's backfired so fast.
Yeah. 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 Basically, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to spin absolutely anything into motivation for me to complete
I've
the army.
noticed. I've
So-
noticed.
Yeah. But it's working. Is it actually working though? Are you actually getting
How
stuff painted?
how are they going?
Yeah, they're going fine. They're going fine.
It's convincing.
No, I had a little bit of an issue last time when I was talking about I wasn't fully happy with the green necessarily, and I've had a few more discussions with people about this, and it started to make me realize that when we talk about like box art style, for example, versus a more Spanish airbrushy style or the more realistic like grimdark style or things like that, I think what I'd never actually really thought through and really been able to pinpoint was that it doesn't necessarily like the different style. You can prefer the different styles on different miniatures.
Yep, that makes sense.
So it's not just a case for me that I prefer this style and that's a blanket thing over everything. And I think what it came down to was with Dark Angels, I don't necessarily like the box art style on the green because it goes very Tron,
Hmm.
which isn't really what I like.
Very
But-
harsh on the edges, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you look at, for example, Blood Angels, I think the box art style fits them like perfectly. It looks way nicer than, in my opinion, a more realistic or airbrushy style on Blood Angels.
That's fair.
So I think I'm just trying to. Then the difficulty I was having was still wanting them to be dark, but also doing the airbrush thing. You have to push the highlights quite bright, and I'm trying to toe the line between that. And I think I settled way too dark, like because what I was like, it was one of those things where you were holding it up and painting it, and it looked great. And then I put it down on the table, and I was like, that just looks base coated.
Yeah.
So
I had the same troubles, didn't I? A few weeks back, talking to you about my edge highlighting and things, and sort of moving stuff away from the lamp and everything just disappearing. All the paint seems to evaporate off. You can only see it when it's under those harsh lights.
So what I did was I've had a bit of a respray,
Okay.
and I've introduced a brighter
sort of
green into the base coat kind of mixes.
I think in general, that's why people go quite exaggerated with the contrast on miniatures, is because it can seem like a lot when you're looking at it like right in front of you, but as soon as you take like more than a couple of steps back.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, again, where I'm like a little bit out of practice, especially painting for gaming, I wasn't really picking up on that when I was working on it. So, and then I put it down, I was like, brilliant.
Where's all my paintwork?
Looks like I've done nothing.
Yeah.
Even I was saying to you, I'd put some edges on it. Literally couldn't see them as soon as I put it down because I'd gone so like subtle. So yeah, I'm just like going back and forth on trying different things at the minute, which is slowing me down. You'll be pleased to know. Also, initially on my like 1,000 points, I like rushed to get them built, like not even cleaned because I had a game coming up. And now I'm in a position where I have to go back. I've been going back and like re-cleaning
Built
all
models.
of them, and that's taking way longer
Then if you just clean them
than if I
properly.
just cleaned them properly. But if I was just cleaning them properly when I was building them, I wouldn't have them done for the game.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to take longer in the long run. But now I'm just going through that process. It's very frustrating.
That was a problem for your future self, and you are now your future
I'm
self.
now my future self.
Great
Yeah,
old
although I
past
can,
decisions.
at least I can just sort of game with them whenever I want at this point.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like taking them all apart. I'm like just step by step. Okay, I'll clean those up, kind of thing. So, yeah, little bit, slowing down a little bit, but I will still overtake you at some point. I'm pretty sure.
That's the plan, isn't it?
I mentioned it. Everyone keeps on like saying, "Oh, you're getting a lot of encouragement." First of all, what's up with that? Second of all, I've been in the lead since pretty early doors, and no mention of that. Everyone acts as if like this is already in the
it's based
bag.
on expectation, isn't it? Like, I think people are surprised I even bothered to build my army. Whereas, like, the expectation is, well, George is George just sits and paints all day. That's the expectation.
Yeah.
Look at it. I think, oh, he's a painter, so he's just
painting all day long.
yeah. So he should have it done by now.
Yeah. Well, busy,
That's what you're
busy
battling,
painting other
basically.
people's stuff is my
Yeah,
issue.
and lucky for me, I'm in charge of what other stuff you're painting.
Yeah.
So I just
Keep you tied down.
I just make sure I give
Yeah.
George stuff that's going to take up all of his time.
There's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes of all this stuff that you don't see.
So I've rigged the system a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff,
I paid James off to leave the competition.
speaking of stuff that paint for other people, I'm doing some Necrons at the minute. That's good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What characters is it? It's like 4 characters, isn't it?
It's Oracan, Imatech. What is that other guy called?
There's the Hexmark Destroyer,
Hexmark Destroyer, and the fella from Indomitus,
Royal Warden.
Royal Warden. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should probably know this, but
Yeah.
I just paint the stuff. I haven't done Necrons, I realised.
Whatever.
I think I've done like one for an old video like a couple of years ago, but I realised that like I actually haven't really done it.
I kind of thought you'd done some for us, you know.
No.
Have
don't
you
know
done
what
I'm sure you've done hasn't he done a character before?
No, I
Hasn't
think
he?
I think they're just around so much that I like almost
Do you know what I
feel
might
like
be?
I've done it.
Do you know what I
but-
might be thinking of? You did that Ultramarine captain that's got like Necrons on the base, didn't you?
Oh yeah, for
What was he
Golden,
called?
yeah, for Golden Demon, I've done Sergeant
Sergeant?
Castus,
Yeah.
Yes.
and there's some Necrons on the base. Maybe that's where I'm getting it from. I've done some like
That's the
little
most
Necron
Necrons
Yeah.
you've ever done.
But I realised I was like, oh, I haven't actually painted a full Necron model before.
It's a cool. Clients asked for a cool dynasty. It's like with the red, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or like orange or something.
They've asked for like a more vibrant orange sort of
Do
spin on it.
you dare to try and pronounce it?
No.
I can't actually remember what it's called, but I know they're all horrible to pronounce. Yeah, pretty cool. Necrons are. I don't think I've ever done like. Obviously, I did my fabled Necrons army.
How'd that go? Take notes at home of Joe's past army.
Well, I'm already past that point now, so
It's just a bit of dry brush, isn't it? A bit of lead belcher, isn't it? That's all it is over black.
yeah, no, but I wanted to get fancy with it. I was doing,
awesome.
they've got black armor,
Yeah.
and like, but quite fiddly to build.
Just
Yeah,
don't know about the characters,
I lucked
but-
out a little bit because they're characters, so they're a
Yeah.
little bit bigger, fewer
The-
parts, but
It's just classic, like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm used to Space Marines, and then you go to build
Yep.
Necron Warriors, and everything's just snapping.
well, they're just
I-
space skeletons, aren't they? That's what they are,
Yeah.
really.
I do. I always do it with anything like human scale. I forget how tiny stuff is, and how like Space Marines. Like, oh yeah, they are actually quite big because they become like almost your baseline for like what size a Warhammer model is. Then you got like a guard fella, and he's like, oh, his little hands.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
They're bigger than I thought. Because I don't game, so I don't really see a lot of models that
Well,
like out in the
well,
wild.
they're all newer Necron
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah, good fun to paint though.
that
Metallics are always fun.
Hexmark Destroyer definitely quite big.
It's smaller than I thought.
That's the big one with like 6 guns or whatever. isn't
Yeah,
it?
it turns out he's not that big.
What size is the base? 50.
Yeah, but he's not very tall, and he's mostly leg,
Oh, okay,
so there's not a lot in it. To be fair,
fair enough.
but no, it's good fun. I like painting metallics. It was a nice chance to. I feel like that's when you get to dive into more of like scale modeling stuff and like your oils and your gloss varnishes and your washes and all that fun.
You
stuff.
doing much of that?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I'm trying to mix it up.
No.
No, I've been trying to mix it up like a little bit. I used it as an opportunity to try out some sort of different ideas that I'd been accumulating over the course of this year, just in terms of like the way I applied the metallics.
Yeah.
Just to give myself some ease and get some better results, hopefully. So I was like messing around with using gloss varnishes to like relieve surface tension and then varnishing after. So it's been like a bit stop and start in terms of, because I don't have a permanent airbrush setup either. So it's like, right, okay, let's get this far. Okay, airbrush comes out, step for that, put it all away, get a bit further, back out it comes. So, but other than that, it's been really fun. It's weird painting multiple characters together because they're also individual. And in your head at first, you're like, well, I can just sort of, group do most of the colors like I would an army.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they're all quite unique.
Yeah.
Despite the
It
colour
looks good
scheme.
once you finished them all, though.
Yeah, been enjoying
Looking
it.
forward to
Yeah.
seeing them all.
If you're a long-term listener of the podcast, you'll know how important it is to have the right tools to aid you in your painting. And if there's one piece of equipment that I could never live without, it's my Onyx lamp from Native Lighting. It doesn't matter what brush or paints you have if you can't see what you're doing in the first place. The Onyx is the perfect lamp for miniature painting because its super bright 2,200 lumen LEDs cast soft and diffused light on your models without any harsh shadows. And its daylight balanced color temperature of 6500K gives you the confidence that the colors you are painting are accurate. As someone with a very small hobby desk, by far my favorite feature though is its articulating arm, which clamps to the side of your desk, maximizing your workspace. It's also super adjustable so you can sit comfortably in the perfect painting position without sacrifice. It also folds up into a compact shape, which is great if you like to travel to paint with your friends. To upgrade your setup and order yours now, head to siegestudios.co.uk/shop or head to the link in this episode's description. Quick little announcement before we get into the main topic. It's Black Friday next week.
Yep.
Already.
Already.
Yeah.
We're going to tease? We're doing...
Yeah, we say some stuff.
Siege are doing a pretty substantial Black Friday sale on the store.
I think probably the biggest one we've done before. Like we've done a few before, but I don't think they've ever been as much of a thing as this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. So some things I can say for your listeners. There'll be Iron Skull tickets discounted. There'll be miniatures which have been painted by the team that are like already in stock. Merch. Courses, 1-to-1 tuition, painting accessories, and tutorials.
Yep.
So
We're going to have discounts, and I think there's going to be some painted models which aren't actually currently on the store. I think we're going to put up before
extra
then as
ones,
well. Yeah,
just for Black Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just
so
in time.
keep your eyes peeled for the Siege Studio store. Black Friday weekend, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have like full details next week on Thursday's episode. But yeah, just a bit of a pre-announcement, I guess. If you anyone who's like window shopping, you do a bit of window shopping in the build up to Black Friday, don't you?
Yeah, you've probably seen a couple of things on there and gone, well, I'll check back.
Yeah, I'll check back in a week. Black Friday's coming up. So.
Yeah, you can get signed up to the newsletter as well, and then you'll hear about everything first, I guess.
Sweet. So, as happens every year, Warhammer have announced the new army box sets, and I wanted to talk about if box sets in general and these army sets are actually a good deal, and are they the way to go with planning an army? So, we've had a lot of conversations this year about army painting specifically. We've all somewhat started our own armies as well. So, I thought it'd be cool to talk about what we've learned from those projects and those conversations, and if we was using one of these box sets to start a new army, how we would approach that differently, perhaps, using what we've learned?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it up front or not, or towards the end, but I have bought one.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Pin in that for now.
Okay.
Wonder which one it is.
Should we do a little overview of what these are and what ones are?
Yeah. Do you want
to
run down, because they're the Christmas box sets?
You got the
I don't
list
think
here,
you said
haven't
Christmas in your. It was a very lovely intro, but I don't think you said Christmas. So they're the Christmas box sets. They do them every year where they just bundle together selection of relevant models for each army. I don't think they ever have
It's nothing
new
new
models or exclusive models or anything like that.
It's a bit different. I guess it's a bit different because you might get a bit confused if you're newer, especially. They do army sets often when there's new releases for an army. So they don't want to start the year with the Dark Angels, done one earlier in the year with the Blood Angels, because they had new miniatures and they got a big set.
But that comes with codex and things like that. They're different. These are just Christmas. They used to call them battle forces. I don't know if they actually refer to them as battle forces anymore. I think they've given them all individual names.
They're like a sort of fan favorite in the community, though, aren't they? Because every year it's quite predictable that they're coming.
There's one thing about us lot. We love a box. We love a box of models. Anyone who paints stuff, even if you're not going to buy it, it's just fun to see. Oh, that's the towel box. Oh, that's that. Do you know what I mean?
That's a towel box.
Yeah. So that's everyone just gets excited about it, I think, and also just the off chance that they're gonna release a box full of everything that you're planning on buying, and you're gonna get it a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
I think as well, just on the off chance. Which is what has happened to me.
I'll rattle them off. It's kind of what you'd expect. This year, there's Adeptus Sororitas, Sisters of Battle, Imperial Knights, Necrons, Tau, and Dark Angels for 40k. And then for AOS, there's Iron Jaws, Flesh Eater Courts, Cities of Sigmar, and Maggotkin of Nurgle. So, initially, any surprise factions or ones you were expecting to see but maybe didn't, or vice versa?
To be honest, I was actually a bit surprised that Dark Angels were in it, given what you just said, which was there was an army box earlier in the year.
Yeah, not so long ago, was it? Yeah.
And obviously this is very different to that, and I'm very glad there's a Dark Angels one. But it did seem a bit of an odd choice. Maybe I don't know how they work out the when I say odd choice, not that it won't be successful, it's arguably the most popular one on there. I think it's probably sold out the quickest on all of when the pre-orders went up. So it's not an odd choice in that way, but just on paper, seemed a bit weird.
I really thought there might be a Blood Angels one, combining sort of a combat patrol and the new sort of Death Company.
I guess they did just get...
Maybe it's too recently.
Yeah,
did they get
too soon?
Did they get a new combat patrol as well, Blood
Yeah.
Angels? Because Dark Angels didn't get a new combat patrol.
They did get a new combat patrol.
I don't know if we did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Did you?
you did.
Did they?
They got
Are you
a
sure?
rebox when combat patrol changed, but I don't think it has new models in it.
That's what I'm saying. We've still got... Because that's the second... you've got the Blood Angels one has the new models in it.
It does.
The Dark Angels
does,
Combat Patrol doesn't have a single Dark Angel specific model in it, as far as I'm aware.
Has it got
No,
a line
I've
on
just
it?
double checked. You are correct. It is Hellblasters, Intercessors, just the regular Blade Guard veterans, and a Gravis Captain.
Yeah, so cool models. Don't get me wrong, but it's not really a Dark Angels.
You could
set,
buy
is
that
it?
and do it as any chapter
Yeah,
of Space
Yes,
Marines.
yes,
that's
insane.
basically a Space Marines Combat Patrol.
Yeah.
So I guess from that point of view, it does make sense. They haven't had
Yeah.
that separate update. But other than that, the Knights is a given, I think, every year because you can get an army.
In a box.
In a box.
In a
Yeah.
box, pretty easy.
You're going to need
yeah.
like 4 or 5 models, don't you? And you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, in fairness, I think, I don't know 100%, but I think a lot of the 40k ones on here do come in at in and around the 1,000 point mark.
Right, okay.
I'm not 100% sure on the exact things of all of them.
But in the ballpark.
But I think it's in the ballpark. So that's quite cool as well.
Is there not normally a Space Marine specific one? Does that not seem like super obvious to me?
Well, just Space Marine.
Yeah. I'm surprised that there's not just a Space Marines one, because there was one last year. I thought that they would probably do like a Space Marines one and then maybe...
Do they mix it up every year? Cause
yeah, they do. Yeah.
I'm like this year, I'm thinking, well, where's like the Astra Mill one, or where's the League of Votan one, or some of these other ones? But I'm wondering whether they did them last year.
Leagues of Votan would have been a good one. If they didn't do that last year, I can't remember what last year's ones were, to be honest. But yeah, Votan would have been a cool one because it's like they've only been around not that long, so they haven't had much opportunity to have a Christmas box.
2 years, maybe?
Can I just dive in here?
Go for it. To look at last year's.
Last year, we had Space Marines, Imperial Guard.
We did.
World Eaters, Orcs, Leagues of Votan, and Tyranids.
Okay, there you go.
That's
so
fair
they
enough,
got one last year.
Yeah.
And Guard, we know, are coming with some fresh stuff next
Yeah, they
year
will do,
from the roadmap that they released. So probably not the best idea to stick a Guard army box out now.
Buy a load of old miniatures.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe no real surprises then. Even I know it's not Space Marines, generic Space Marines, but
it's still the Space Marines.
They've got Dark Angels there, so they are kind of covered.
Representing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty of each box because I'm by no means experienced enough in the game to be able to speak to that. But just going off like the models in general, because normally I feel like with these boxes, there's like the big thing to catch you and then some other filler stuff. But the Dark Angels one is like just all bangers.
It's
like,
wild, isn't it? Like, and it's like, even I was looking at it, I was looking at the list of models in it again, and I was like, oh, you get that as well. Like, I completely skipped over the fact that you get the chaplain in it.
Yeah.
So I was, without the chaplain, I was already like, I'm going to get that. And then I was like looking back over it again. I was like, oh, you get the chaplain as well. That's crazy.
Shall I just list them off? So for the Dark Angels, you've got Lionel Johnson, the new chaplain in Terminator armor.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
2 boxes worth of the Inner Circle Companions and 2 boxes worth of the Deathwing Knights.
Yeah.
So all of those models are new, bar the Lion, which is still like kind of new. But even so, it's a Primarch. So it's a fairly expensive model for one.
Yeah.
And 2, like it's a big focal point, isn't it? I mean, this is like a proper Dark Angels box.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. Also, because the name of the Dark Angels one, the Inner Circle Task Force, I think.
Yep.
That is the name of one of the Dark Angels detachments that you can use in the game.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know.
Does it like match up perfectly for what's on that
well,
list?
I mean, detachment in terms of as a gamer now, the detachment
as our resident 40k expert,
as someone who has played 3 games of 40k.
You're up to 3 now.
Yep.
Nice. That's like your qualifiers are out. So you're you're in.
You're a pro gamer now as well. That's a pro painter.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Nice.
So I would the structure of the deployments are kind of pretty open. The actual deployment detachment, sorry, the structure of the detachments is actually pretty open. Like you can almost have anything you want in any detachment in terms of the army.
Yeah.
So as long as if it's a Dark Angels detachment, then it has to have Dark Angels and Space Marine stuff in it or whatever. So that would line up like fine. I think that would line up just perfectly. And I don't know if all the others are also named after detachments as well, but I think that is quite a cool way to go about it, especially for someone getting into the game. Whether the models that you get in there line up to the benefits of that detachment or not, I have no idea. Because obviously there's certain detachment rules where it's like, okay, that'd be good to take a combat army with this or whatever.
Yeah.
So whether that lines up like that, I have no idea. But I think it's cool, yeah, because it's quite confusing, isn't it, when you're just starting off? So
Yeah.
as much like parity as possible, it is quite cool. But yeah, the Dark Angels one is crazy value. I think we ain't got the numbers. There's other places you can go for that, I think, for the actual maths of it. But that's crazy value. The other 40k ones do still seem pretty good value to me. I don't think any of them
the Tau
bad.
one sticks out to me because you've got a Riptide and a Ghost Kill and an Empire Commander in there. They're all like fairly pricey kits, especially the Riptide. And then you've got a Broadside in there as well. So they're like, big suits for the army. It's not just a whole bunch of Fire Warriors or anything.
Yeah.
So that's quite an interesting one. Knights as well, like you say. Knights are fairly expensive on their own anyway, just because you don't need many of them. So that's quite good value costings wise. So these are £150 in the UK, MSRP. You can get them discounted if you go. We've got an affiliate link in the description for Element Games. If you want to check them out through there, you might get them a little bit cheaper, and we get a bit of kickback as well. But overall, I'd say that's pretty, especially for the Dark Angels one. I'll speak to that because it's the one I know the best. Seems pretty good value because I don't think there's any like filler in there. It's not like, the Lion, some cool Inner Circle companions, and then 20 intercessors.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all like cool new stuff.
I think the big thing with these boxes, we'll get onto the AOS ones in a sec, but at least I suppose probably true for all of them, to be fair, is sometimes it can be a bit confusing who they're aiming them at.
Yeah.
Because most say, not to just keep talking about the Dark Angels one, but most Dark Angels players, for example, would already have bought
most of that stuff.
All of this stuff. Like definitely the Lion.
Yeah, sure.
And if you already had a Lion, it wouldn't make a ton of sense to buy that because he's a big chunk of the value of the box.
You could sell it, but even then, like these releases are all quite new, so you've probably just been buying them throughout the year. Like we said, there was an army box at the beginning of the year.
To me, the Christmas Battle Force boxes, like over the years that I've been in the hobby anyway, has always seemed to me like New Year, New Army. This is like where you start. Here's a taste of all the really cool stuff that you really like, rather than here's a combat patrol and it makes perfect sense for your list in this game. It's like you just want like a taste of Tau, or here's like the 3 of the big suits that are like the really cool centerpiece models.
Yeah.
Then if you get excited about it, you can fill it out around that, right? Where I'd say that confuses me a little bit, actually, because that I could apply that rule to all of these boxes, other than weirdly the Sisters of Battle don't have any battle sisters in the box.
Yeah, not very sistersy.
No, that's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? So you've got a Minister and Priest, 2 Penitent Engines, Repentia, Arco Flagellants, and the 2 Rhinos. But no Sisters of Battle.
Yeah, that is a bit of
like an armoured unit.
So that, again, as someone who doesn't play, I'm looking at that and thinking like, well, this might be a good buy for someone who has a Sisters army and needs extra stuff.
Yeah, maybe because it doesn't feel like core classic Sisters stuff. But the other armies it does feel like that is exactly who they're aiming for, is like new people.
Get people away from their Ultramarines for a bit.
Yeah.
Something else.
Which is quite funny because for me, it's lined up perfectly because I on purpose did 1,000 points of generic Space Marines to then build Dark Angel stuff on top of.
Yeah.
So it's lined up
quite well,
absolutely perfectly for me, where I can just
your patience has paid off.
I haven't bought any of the Dark Angel
one of these
stuff
days they're going to release a set and I shall pounce.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't get the launch army box.
I was just I hadn't really decided to do the army again yet, because that was
I suppose the dates didn't quite
came out.
sync up.
It got released on. It got previewed on Christmas Day last year.
Right. Would you, going back then, would you have bought that box?
Yeah, 100%. I almost didn't buy any Dark Angel stuff for this initial chunk because I resented the fact that I missed out on that box.
Right. Was you like almost waiting for a new box to come out.
Yeah, pretty much. Or an updated combat patrol or something, or just something. So this is done perfectly for me.
Yeah.
But in general, I think it is like it's a weird situation where actually, say, most Dark Angels fans are probably looking to what other boxes there are to start a new army.
Yeah.
The Dark Angels box probably doesn't isn't relevant to them, and same for every other army in there, other than maybe Sisters, like we just said.
You're just filling this perfect niche.
I am.
box.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
aimed
the
at
perfect.
you.
Yeah, literally.
You're
They
already
could-
sold on Dark Angels.
They must be listening.
Yeah.
That's the only way. The only way. Whoever put these boxes together must be a listener.
I need all these models, but only if only they were cheaper in one box.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we get to our favourites and how we'd paint them then, don't want to overlook AOS, of course.
No. I think that these are some of the best looking boxes.
Yeah, I was going to say if we're going to
Great.
be talking about painting, I feel like we're going to mostly be talking about the AOS
Yeah,
boxes. To be
yeah.
fair.
So I did some maths on the Cities of Sigmar because I'm kind of steering towards Cities of Sigmar miniatures. They look very nice. Anyway, I digress.
We've not shied away from our love of Cities of
No,
Sigmar.
I think
either in the
all three of
past.
us have
Yeah.
expressed a lot of love for Cities of Sigmar, but I don't think any of us have painted them.
Well, I quite like. I know I keep banging on about the Cavalier Marshal.
Yeah.
It's an awesome figure, and this set just pops up, and I think,
He's not in it.
he is in it.
He's not in it.
No, he's not in it. He's in. They've got like a spearhead box, haven't they?
Yeah.
He's in that.
Yeah.
But having a look at these boxes, especially for the Cities of Sigmar, I didn't work out for everything else, but I think they work out to about 220 a box if you did everything separate.
If you wanted all of the stuff in there
Yeah.
and you bought
Yeah.
it all individually
So
from
for that,
GW.
for that
Yeah.
box, you're saving about sort of 68, 70 quid on the
That's
box.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
That's like the cost of a
sizable chunk.
spearhead. So you could get that and a spearhead.
And get your
Yeah.
Marshal, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I suppose you're saving that money. You can then go and get your paints and whatever you want after that. But there's still some awesome miniatures in there. It's so good.
I'm glad you brought up the Marshal though. That was the notable almost had me.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. In the Maggot King of Nurgle, you have got the Harbinger of Decay in there.
You have.
So if
That's just to
you've got to pay 150 quid just for that figure.
just to on the Cities of Sigmar thing, they included the is it like the Command Core or whatever
They
it
have,
is,
yes.
which that is a great set of models.
They are, yeah.
It's like this little
Oh right, okay, yeah.
of characters and a little dragon dog thing.
Mm.
That individually, just some of those models are ones that I was like, if I am going to scratch an itch
Yeah.
for Cities of Sigmar, I think some of them would be there.
Individually, I love all of these miniatures and all of these sculpts. It was just missing a centerpiece for me.
But I mean, getting that box and then buying one centerpiece. Do you know
It's
what I
fair.
mean?
It's just, like I said, it
saving.
just feels like the hook. It was
yeah,
like,
yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
I get what you mean. But I think for a lot of people, again, if you're thinking of starting the army and you want a good taste of that army when it comes to hobbying and gaming and whatever,
Yeah.
that is probably a good.
Well, to be fair,
selection.
I think because they're quite a new army as well, so they haven't got a ton of models. That is like the bulk of the army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one where they've had an army box not too long ago when the range
Yeah.
launched, so a lot of people who were interested in it are going to have that.
We frequently hear from you with questions asking how you can paint like our team of world-class and award-winning artists. Teaching is something that all of the team here at Siege are very passionate about, and we want to share with you the methods and techniques that we use to paint every single day all of the incredible miniatures and armies that you have seen from us. With the Siege Studios Patreon, you'll gain access to a growing catalogue of over 300 step-by-step tutorials covering a huge variety of colour schemes, miniatures, painting styles, and techniques, from beginner-focused foundation tutorials to full character masterclasses. Each lesson comes in a beautifully designed and easy-to-follow PDF format with accompanying artist commentary, with new tutorials added every single week. Your subscription also includes access to our private Patreon channels on Discord, so that you can interact directly with our artists, asking for questions or feedback. You'll also be supporting the podcast directly, helping us to bring you these episodes every single week. So if you want to take your painting to the next level and make the most of your very valuable hobby time, head over to patreon.com/Siege Studios. What about the others?
What, the Nurgle box?
Yeah.
That's great.
I thought
Ace
I
Wicked
thought
is.
yeah, I thought Paul would probably
Yeah,
be interested
that's really
in the
cool.
Nurgle box.
I mean, if I had to choose between that and the cities, I think I'd pick the cities one, just because I have already painted quite a lot of.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that just because you're Nurgled out
Yeah,
more than anything?
I think, like you said before, like these like, sort of Cities of Sigmar stuff, it's a bit of a palette cleanser. They're quite nice.
Mm.
I feel like you don't get a lot of, vocal love for the AOS side of Nurgle. It's mostly like Death Guard. 40K.
Well, I suppose because, I mean,
other than that,
there
Harbinger
are
of Decay
things in
came
this
out,
set that you could probably use in a 40k army anyway. Because, you could use some of the miniatures in that. You could use as cultists and things like that as well. Anyway, so
yeah, that's fair.
you can mix and match with those sets.
Yeah, I think in general, a lot of the Chaos Demons stuff gets potentially overshadowed by its like 40k counterpart.
Yeah, sure.
That's kind of the difficult. It's still one of the stranger factions that it bleeds both universes.
I don't actually know what the current standing on that is, because I think they are going through something at the minute where they're trying to not have that be the case. If that makes sense. It does feel like
they're trying to push them apart.
Demons is going to be AOS and Chaos Marines is going to be 40k.
At the very least, at the moment, it's a little bit convoluted.
Yeah.
But
and I hear game-wise that Death Guard are in a pretty good position. They changed a lot of the rules for them. There's a lot of discussion about these things.
Joe can tell us all about it.
Yeah, he's got 3 games under his belt.
As the resident,
so tell me, Joe.
Resident gamer, none of my games have involved Death Guard, but I would say they are in a pretty good place. Yeah, as the gamer myself, I would say they're in a pretty good place.
People are saying that's what people are saying.
Yeah, the rumors are that Death Guard are in there.
Rumors in the warp are.
Yeah. That's what the streets are saying, anyway.
Yeah.
But
that's what the kids on the street are saying.
Yeah, so that's that. If I hear anything else, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
But yeah, that's what I would say.
Cheers, Joe.
3 games.
If you want me to, like, obviously, I know it's a painting podcast, and I'm a gamer now and stuff, and I don't want to turn it into a gaming podcast. But if you want me to do a little update every time I'm on, then I'm happy to.
I think it's what people would like.
Yeah. Just trying to think of anything else.
I want to hear how your painted miniatures are doing in the game.
Well, you'll get that update
regardless
in a while.
Eventually.
Flesh Eater Courts. It's another.
They are quite good miniatures.
They're good miniatures. It's not doing it for me, the box. I'm not going to lie.
Do you know what it is with Flesh Eater Courts? They're like undeniably cool, like sick fantasy models, like so cool. I don't understand why I don't have like the urge to paint them.
Because they're all just kind of grey and black.
Potentially, and
I kind of agree. It's like on paper, it ticks so many boxes. Individually, there's quite a lot of miniatures that I like and I would like to paint. But then I see army boxes and I'm never like, oh.
Do you know what part of it is? Obviously, it's all personal taste. Like
100%.
All these armies have themes, and if you're not in on the theme, it doesn't really matter how good the models are, because you're not. Unless you get that odd golden model where it, like, in spite of the theme,
everything.
You love the model.
Like, take for example Tau. Nope.
Yeah.
But Farsight.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So
you know what I mean?
That sums it up.
Yeah. So for me, and I've spoken about
That's
this.
That's going to upset a few people.
As it comes to painting, I've spoken about this in 40k, relative to 40k, even Space Marines before, where, like, often I feel like a lot of the coolest color schemes on paper or in theory would be like more drab, like, or even like black armor and or like these like army green colors,
like a more
like
realistic
raptors and stuff. Yeah, that is in
feel.
theory what would look cooler, but as an army of models looking at it, I'm like, oh no, I'd rather they were bright purple. Do you know what I mean? Like, so similar to these, really. And I know you can paint them whatever color you want and things like that, but obviously I think that is similar thing. To what Paul's saying is like, they're really cool, but just overall, for whatever reason. And I think I struggled to get on board with like vampire stuff as well. Just doesn't really do it for me. No shots of Blood Angels. No shots of Blood Angels. Just vampires a little bit goofy for me. You can put vampires are in with Marines sitting on their little pilot seats. Just too goofy for me.
Finally, for AOS, there's the Aurochs, Iron Jaws. I always struggle with them. They're the fantasy orcs. You know what they are.
Yeah.
they're another interesting one. So you've got a massive centerpiece and a whole bunch of little guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think orcs are like, I've always loved the orc models and the orc ranges
They're
and
mental,
stuff.
aren't they?
I think
Right.
they potentially have, especially the Age of Sigmar ones, the most amount of like solid, incredible models.
Yeah.
Like I'll just see a new one that I completely forgot existed, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be the best model in most other armies. Do you know what I mean? If other armies' top model was this good, it would be the best model, and it's just some random character that they released 2 years ago that I forgot about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so
no, good.
I don't think
it's
you
a
can really-
plentiful range.
I don't think you can go wrong really.
Even the rank and file are all
Exactly,
crazy,
like
aren't they? They're really good.
and there's so many different sides to orcs with like the different ranges. Even within 40k, there's like you can go down like the vehicle route, you can go down like the beast snagger route, you can go.
Is
down
it almost?
normal.
It's like a big sort of freedom with the orcs as well, isn't it? You can just go a bit crazy with them, just like they are themselves.
Yeah, I mean that main like centerpiece model in this box is crazy.
Yeah.
Really cool. What have you ever painted any Age of Sigmar orcs? Either of you?
I've painted orcs.
Have you done Age of Sigmar ones?
No,
So, like
I
this
don't
kind
paint
of
I
loads
don't
of
think
40K
I've done an AOS or I've got a lot on the list. On the bucket list.
on the bucket list. Yeah. What do you want to rattle some of them off? See if anyone sends one in.
No, because that'll distract me from my army.
Because one of the things, I with the box art, I've never really liked yellow armor.
I feel like it looks so good on these though.
Yeah, I know. But like in general, if I was ever going to paint anything, I'd be like, I don't really want to do yellow armor. Like it just doesn't really do it.
It does nicely differentiate the box art of 40k orcs and AOS orcs.
Yeah.
With them typically being the black goth skin for 40k.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I do think like when you start cycling through some other colours, I know a lot of people do blue for like there's an orc clan or whatever they're called for that is mostly blue. Black could still actually work on these, I think.
I think a lot of people use like mix and match the models. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think black would still work. Because given what I was just saying, because you've got so much green skin sticking out, they still look like quite vibrant. I think.
Yeah.
So you can get away with like, I actually quite like when I've seen people do just metallics for the armor, just like silver, brass or something. Like it kind of fits.
That medieval kind of style.
Yeah, it's a bit more Lord of the Ringsy.
Yeah.
Almost, you know.
Yeah.
With that in mind, then, I think it'd be cool to pick out your favourite one and maybe like a plan for how you would paint it using some of the things we've learned this year.
Yeah.
Joe, you're the obvious one.
Should I do the one that I've bought or should I not do the one that I've bought?
I would like to hear a little bit of a brief overview of the Dark Angels and then maybe another nominee.
Okay, I feel like I've gone quite heavy on talking on Dark Angels though.
Skim over it. So you've bought a box.
Yeah, I bought the Dark Angels one.
Okay.
So,
Lion, I guess.
What?
Yeah.
What have you learned so far from how you approached planning the army?
Well, here's the part of the. I thought that I'd get to a certain point and be like, color scheme wise, for example, I've got my recipe down now. But actually, in this new box, there's Deathwing stuff. So I haven't painted any Deathwing yet. I've got to work out what I want to do for that recipe. The Lion and the Inner Circle companions have different color armor. They have darker armor. So I'm going to have to work out that
So varied.
and stuff like that. So it's like, I do actually need to, now I know some of the mistakes I've made with what I was saying about the amounts of contrast and stuff like that. I can take that into planning the new box.
Would you, now that you've got the sort of core of your army and you're already playing your games, would you do that again for a build? Like say you start from scratch and you hadn't already done that. Say for like a new player who maybe wants to pick up this box, would you say that was a good way to go, getting them all built so you can start playing with them?
I would only, depends what your priorities are. Like, because
I suppose this isn't like a gaming list.
The
so you're
fact
probably approaching this from more of a faction painting.
You could
perspective.
literally just get this box and play with it. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Don't know how good it'd be. Don't know how much fun you'd have, but you could. If
Fair
you
enough.
wanted.
Yeah.
I think for me, I wish I started building my models earlier, or I wish I had a bit more of a gap in between deciding I was going to start building them versus my first game is here, so that I could fully clean them and everything. Because some people don't necessarily care about that. Like some people leave the mold lines on. Some people don't necessarily want everything fully clean.
Yeah.
But for me, I like over clean. I feel like, so I really like the model to be completely fully clean.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Is that because you like enjoy the process as well? It's like an enjoyable part for
I
you?
like half of it is that I've just really started to enjoy the building process, and half of it is like just being like absolutely terrified that I'm going to prime it and then see something and go, oh,
Yeah.
now I've got to
Yeah.
I know
clean
you
that,
feel,
and then
yeah.
I've got to spray over it again. And just I've had it just drilled into me, I guess, from working here, like just setting yourself up to have the best
Yeah.
canvas. Sort of getting rid of that as an excuse down the line. Like if something looks a bit ropey when I'm painting it, I don't have the excuse of, there's a bit of glue over spill or something. You know what I mean? Like, so I would personally recommend. I would definitely recommend building everything, but I would recommend making sure that you give yourself enough time to fully clean those models. Don't do what I'm doing, which is fully build them, don't clean them, and then have to go back over them.
I
It's
can
hard.
imagine that's sorry. I was going to say this. I can imagine trying to clean models once they're built is far more of a struggle than
Oh
having
yeah,
all the individual
100%.
I think it
bits.
is.
Like,
'Cause you
and
can't
I
access
can't imagine my
stuff
brain
in the
would
same
just
way.
melt.
Yeah. Luckily, I think there's two sides to it, in fairness, because I think part of it does stop you putting extra effort into certain areas,
Yeah.
because you can already see that you're not going to be able to see it. It's going to be covered. So while you still probably still clean it, you do know it's going to be covered, so I don't need to go as crazy on it.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is I have obviously done the temporary sub-assembly. So
The
I
TSA.
have been able to snap those back off and clean them in that way. So it hasn't been completely difficult.
Yeah.
But
It's part of the tricky balance, I guess, between having the deadline for the game was great motivation to get it all ready,
Yeah.
but having
Being
it too
realistic.
soon makes it more difficult on yourself.
Yeah.
yeah,
the future.
like I said, it depends on your priorities, doesn't it? So with this one, now that what I wish I did basically was like buy just a dummy army, like a dummy 1,000 points on eBay,
And use that
and use that to play the games
whilst you're painting.
whilst I was then
Yeah.
taking time on my models. Because if now I'm in this position where I've got this 1,000 points, I can play some games. I'm
Yeah.
now not in a rush to do my first 1,000 points is now my dummy army. And then that's what I wish I did really, was
Yeah.
like just muster some
Do you
random
remember? I actually remember
eBay.
you making a joke about how you're going to do a test army on a past podcast
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Test
How
army.
that's
Yeah.
come back to bite you.
Yeah. It's kind of a test army in a way.
Because
Yeah.
we were saying about how you could do a test model, but sometimes what you do on a test model doesn't scale. Because when you see it,
and
in
it
a
was
bit-
just
in maths-
snowballing every time.
Yeah.
So I was like, so you should
Test
probably do
squad.
a test unit just to
Yeah.
see how the unit sits. But then you don't really know how the unit looks in the army, so you should probably do a test army. Yeah,
how that's
Gets to a combat patrol, then a battle force.
so
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
how that's come
10,000
back
points
yeah.
later.
I basically wish I bought like a like a random half painted, not even painted,
Yeah.
whatever, badly painted eBay army, and just use that to play with until my army was completely done. Does that make sense?
Imagine that. 1 week you've got this army playing with, and it's all about. Then a week later, you're like. It's like the Riders of Rohirrim coming over the hill. It's
Well, that must
slam
be-
him down on the
Yeah.
table.
6
Yeah.
games in, he's got his painted army.
Yeah, like the funny thing is like that must be what it's like for some people that get like huge army commissions from us.
Yeah,
right?
that's-
because
yeah.
like they either
Yeah.
don't have an army or they do have like an army, and then it's
All
one of
of a
those
sudden.
rare things where because they're not painting the army, they're not like slowly adding their painted models to their army. They just randomly in 6 months get 2,000 points of completely fully painted stuff, and then turn up to their next game with
Yeah.
their friends. Their friends must be like, "What's going on here? When's this happen?"
Laying it on. Not only is it all fully painted, all the spares are magnetized.
So yeah, that's one thing that I will be doing. I'll be taking my time on building and cleaning, and I will take the mistakes that I've made planning my color scheme into planning those new color schemes for the Deathwing and the like the inner circle, darker armor, and things like that.
Nice. Paul?
Well, I'm still definitely going to give some of these Cities of Sigmar miniatures a go. I've got a Marshal coming.
He's scratching the itch.
So I thought the itch is.
He does this. Have you noticed this? Something cool will come out, and then Paul will come back the next week and be like,
I painted
so
this.
I bought the thing.
yeah.
I got the thing.
The thing is, this is where he shows us up.
He actually paints
He
it.
actually paints it.
I'll definitely paint it. It's one of those kind of miniatures where horses, cavalry have always put me off because I just can't get on painting horses. But since I've painted a couple of bigger figures this year, and actually when I look at it, that sort of thing doesn't really worry me anymore. So what?
You painted a giant rat thing.
Yeah,
I think once you paint the Vizig Scour, anything,
it's like a
walk in the park.
what do they call it? A thing of passage. What do they call it?
A rite of passage.
Rite of passage.
Yeah.
But no, I did the Harbinger of Decay, didn't I? That's kind of sort of half rotted horse.
Oh, that's true.
That was quite good fun to paint.
He's on a horse.
Yeah,
He's a
what's
mounted
left of
model.
it. Yeah, that was quite cool to paint.
It's got some of a face.
It's got a bit of a face on. Yeah, so I think I'll definitely get that done in the new year. I'll probably get it before Christmas, but I don't think I'll start it before because I've got other things to do. But
is that going to be like a pure hobby joy project? Or
it always is because I'm not a massive gamer like Joe, so
roasted.
I don't know what's roasted about that. It's just a fact.
It's
He
a
just
fact.
stated a fact.
He's got 3 games under his belt.
Yeah, what's the roast?
What
what's
you
the roast
got?
about
How many
that?
games you got? None. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So
Did you even
Do you
rush
even
to
game?
build your 1,000 points so that you can then go back and clean
Joe,
them?
I don't even own 1,000 points.
Oh
Well,
yeah, Mr. Conservative.
yeah.
I only buy what I need.
yeah.
I buy every time, and then I consult my bucket list models to see
Can I tick that
what
off?
must I purchase next.
No, nothing.
No pile of shame for me.
So anyway,
carry on.
Thank you
for referring to me by my official title.
pro gamer. Yeah. So I think I used to hate cleaning models. The bit I enjoy is the painting. So I'd kind of always not skip the cleaning, but rush through it just so I could slap some.
It means to an end.
Yeah. But then I'd get to the end and then you think, well, I regret it now because I can see a mold line and, there wouldn't be like big chunks of sprue hanging off, but I mean, sometimes you'd occasionally see a mold line down an armor panel and that would really annoy me after I'd spent 30 hours trying to paint something. So I'm trying to find ways to enjoy that part of the process as much as the painting. And
It is like Joe said though. It's the canvas. Like we speak about it on Critique Clinic all the time. It's you can't fix it with paint. Like there's just no getting around it. Like if you skip that part, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
I tend to disagree because if you have got a mold line and you don't want to scrape it off, if you don't thin your paints and just put loads of layers on, eventually you can fix it with paint. So that's technically wrong. But no, I know we've spoken about that so many times over the podcast over the past however many episodes, loads of episodes, every other episode we're talking about this sort of thing. But I'm trying to get into that process of enjoying that. I mean, I'm never going to enjoy it as much as the painting part, but knowing that the end product will be better because of the time that I spend
100%
doing that. So I don't think I'd want to do a whole battle force in one go, though.
I think there's ways you can make it more enjoyable for yourself because I've done a lot of both. I've done a lot of armies in the past where it's been a case of you just got to get it all built and you're sat there for literally like a month just putting kits together.
Yeah.
And that can be quite monotonous, especially when you've got a lot of the same box. So you might have like 5 or 6 boxes worth of the same thing. And you're like,
I haven't really had to do that yet.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like within my 1,000 points, it's all like
real
one of everything.
Yeah, it's like the only thing I've had to double up on is I built 2 dreadnoughts. Really easy kit to build, not a problem at all. So,
but circling back, like I think there's a lot of things you can do around how you treat that time to make it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, for example, putting a film on and just treating it as like this is how maybe a film you've seen a whole bunch of times. You haven't got to be staring at it. One of your favorites. I'm sure we've all got a film like that we can think of.
Yeah.
You sat there in front of the screen and it's just like an evening and you just say, I'm just gonna, for as long as this film takes, I will just be twiddling my thumbs, basically scraping mold lines, and then when the movie's over, it's over. You know, you like the film, you like watching the film, so it makes the task a bit more enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, that's
little things like that.
Yeah, I do that sort of thing. But I think part of my problem is as I'm doing it, well, because when I pick a model, I think I've got all these ideas of how I want to paint it, and I just want to get to that to execute those ideas. So whilst I'm cleaning off, I forget half of the ideas. So I thought, which leads me on to something else that I'll probably put into practice a bit more. Is write the ideas down before you even start.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think I'm sort of trying to get a bit more into actually making a plan to get into that sort of. I don't know whether it seems a bit more professional way of doing things rather than just sitting there and sort of thinking, well, you know, what process am I going to do for all this and just sort of winging it.
Yeah.
Although that's fine as well. I mean,
I think it's like just it's an efficient way to do things. Whether it's more or less professional, like it's just more efficient.
Plus, I won't forget of half the ideas that I've had whilst I'm cleaning everything off.
This might be like the most Gen Z thing I've ever said on the podcast, but I have my phone on my desk when I'm painting.
Of course
Yeah,
you do.
of course you
Can't get you lot off it.
Yeah.
Always staring at your phone.
I'll just do with the iPhone assistant. I won't trigger yours if you're listening, but with the assistant,
Do it.
I'll tell it to write a note.
Yeah.
Where if I think of an idea while I'm painting,
Yeah.
I'll just say, Siri, da, 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 with
I would
a note,
actually
write a note, and then have it write it down because I don't want to disrupt the flow.
You can
too
do
much.
that. Is that
Yeah.
I would actually
I've got
argue.
Siri on my phone.
I would argue actually bothering to talk to Siri is more of a millennial thing. I think. But then you got a new note every time. Like I do have a note. I have my notes.
But I'm in the moment, Joe.
How do you
I'm in the
access the
moment.
notes?
I've taken
It's just in
great
your notes.
pride recently in organising my notes app.
No, you do it at the end. You just do it at the end. It's
No,
too
I'm
late.
just saying I've taken great pride in organising it. I've got folders. I've got different things, and
I think I'll stick to a notebook and pen. It's probably just a bit, it's a bit more my style.
the notes app. I've got a hot take. The notes app is brilliant.
It's great. Do you know why the Notes app is
It's way
great?
better than anyone ever thought the Notes app actually is.
You can search for anything.
It's so good. And just the amount you can actually do in it. I think I just ignored the Notes app for like
It's good now. You can add drawings. You can do
Yeah. So
you can do
put
tables. And all
photos.
sorts.
You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
have photos.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, like, the app's been out for ages. And all that. But like, so
Old man discovers iPhone.
yeah. And you click on this, and it takes you to the internet, and then
The World Wide Web.
So I've enjoyed just coming up with a new note, like and planning the project.
Yeah.
One thing I will say with planning projects, especially with color schemes, is don't be afraid to change it if it doesn't work. If your plan isn't looking great, don't just go, well, I've written the plan now, so I'm going to stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Feel free to adjust. Don't feel like bad. Don't feel like you failed your plan, kind of thing. But yeah, I would do. Yeah, I'd do the same thing. I don't talk to my phone because
No, it's a bit
weird.
So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to having a crack at some Cities of Sigmar.
Yeah,
Quite cool minis.
look forward to see it. Do you know what color scheme you're going for? Yeah. Have you looked at the different cities?
There's so many out there.
Guilds, are they called?
I thought they were just cities.
Are they?
They might be guilds.
I don't know enough. I just a cool miniature I want to paint. But I might do a sort of black undercoat with a purple sort of double undercoat, if that makes sense. So you do it black, and then I might do it purple, and then work on top of that, just as something a bit different. It's like I was saying to you, I think last episode, trying something a bit more abstract next year. So I think these might be a bit of an opportunity to try some of that. Oh, I'll tell you what I do want to do on that miniature as well, is some non-metallic metal. There's plenty of steel there,
nice.
some gold there. So I thought,
I think models with like a little bit of metallic detail lend themselves much better to learning that than getting a metallic model, rather than being like, I've never painted NMM before. Time to get Dante. Metallic gold scheme.
That's why I quite like these, because even the little, the basic chaps, I can't remember what they're called. The iron helms. Is it called the iron
Steel helms?
Steel helms.
helms.
Even if they've got little shields and the little helmets, a little bit of non-metallic metal on those. There's plenty on there to have a go at, to practice on. So I thought, wow.
It's kind of what I mentioned with Gaunt's Ghosts on the other.
Yeah, we said with the
episode
blades
as well.
didn't you?
Like they're the perfect. I'm gonna try an MM.
Yeah,
because the only metal is this little blade that
little
you
knife.
want to hold.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's a good idea.
if I get it wrong, it's not really a huge
put a wash over it
undertaking.
and
Yeah.
No, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Yeah,
Sweet.
Would any of the other? So, are you gonna get you thinking of getting the box or no? You're gonna see how you go with this character.
Well, I see how I go with the character. There's quite a lot in that box, and I don't want to buy a box and then never paint it because I don't paint armies. You see. I just kind of. I tend to paint.
You like
what
to
I
sort of
the look of.
hopscotch around.
Yeah, I do.
Stuff,
Yeah. So I think that's
I think that's good though, because you know what you like,
Yeah.
and you're not kidding yourself into, oh, I'll get this box, I'll make that my project. Oh well, I get halfway through it and run out of steam. Oh, there's this other thing.
Yeah.
Rather than overcommitting yourself, you go, oh, this looks cool. Let's try one of those.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, if I like it, I'll get more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a bummer because the spearhead version of that set, I know it's a smaller set, and I looked at that and I thought, well, that's got a Marshal in it. And I think the Marshal was about 40 quid, is he? 36 quid, or whatever he is. I thought, well, for about another 40 quid, you
get all the other
end
stuff.
up, you get all these other
Get
bits.
everything
And I
else.
think,
For the price of 2 Marshalls.
yeah, more or less. So I thought, shall I just get that?
Is that how much spearhead boxes are?
87.50.
No,
I think
87.
full price
From
from GW. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when you break down what's in that box, I think it's about 150 quid. I think so that I mean they're good, great. Quite. I mean they seem quite good value. So I thought
Because maybe we'll brush over it in the news. You know our segment, the news.
the news,
The news.
When we get to the news,
which is soon.
I think there's a new spearhead that
Yes, Slaves to
got
Darkness,
that's
isn't
going to
it?
be coming out
Yeah.
that does tickle my fancy.
Have you? I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, like the Underworld's box sets. They're bringing.
Save it for the
Yeah,
news.
the news.
Save it for the
Okay.
news.
Oh, sorry, that is a topic for the
The
news.
news. That's for the news. If you're a fan of the show and you want to support us, then you should know that we have dropped some awesome merch on the Siege Studios shop. We've got several shirt designs with this really cool graphic on it, which has loads of cool painting nods and references. I've been wearing mine all of the time for months now, and I genuinely get compliments constantly from people who have absolutely no idea what Warhammer is. The shirts are really nice, high quality cotton, and everything is in stock and dispatched by us. None of that print to order nonsense. So if you want to check out the designs for yourself and see the other merch that we have on the shop, head to the link in this episode's description or go to siegestudios.co.uk/shop. And if you use the code POD10 at checkout, you'll save 10% and you'll get a free sticker pack with your order.
We haven't heard from George on how he would
Oh,
potentially
of
approach
course.
one of these. So. Was there one that seriously tempted you?
On paper, it would be Cities of Sigmar, but to be honest,
We've just done all that.
I
so
do
pick one.
prefer the
Pick something else.
spearhead, like Paul alluded to.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to say, if that had a good army box, I might have actually been tempted, despite my ongoing Blood Angels project, because as we discussed, and I sort of alluded to a little bit on last week's, I think the week before episode, I quite like the idea of getting an army and painting it as an army, not necessarily like going mad standards wise, but just having like a big force to appreciate as a whole rather than on an individual basis.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the complete opposite of what I normally like to do with painting. So I think it'd be a good like challenge for myself to look at it in
You
a
might
different
find
way.
it quite freeing as well. Just to,
I think so. And I think it might help me counteract this sort of rut I get myself into of sort of over fussing over the details of things.
Yeah.
absolute perfection.
Yeah, I think it's just, I'm not going to get too much into it because
Yeah.
I've spoken about it before, but it's from doing competition painting a lot over the
Yeah.
years and doing, this bespoke commission stuff. That's been the way I've sort of wired my brain to paint. And while I never judge other people for just treating something as, I'm going to get it to this level and then stop, it's something that I've struggled to do myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of biting off more than I can chew. And it's part of why I paint so slowly, which is hard because I enjoy the painting. So I don't really see it as a problem until it gets to having big end results, right?
Yeah.
So I do like the idea of just like getting an army box and just
Smashing it
smashing it out and just
Yeah.
doing it all as like one thing and not stressing too much about like, I'd still like to paint it nicely,
Yeah,
but
of
you know,
course, yeah.
making big moves with the airbrush,
But the
contrast paints, that
the
sort of
point being, that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve is like, how can I have it looking nice and how can I be happy with it without putting all of that time into
Yeah.
it? So yeah, answering that question.
Yeah.
I don't know if Cities of Sigmar is a particularly good army to do that on in terms of
I disagree
smashing it
though,
out.
because there's a lot of metallics and there's a lot of wood grain and textures on there, which I think would be really easy to do with like washes and contrast paints and things.
True. I guess I'm
And
just
there's
thinking,
skin textures, so like soft textures for like the hands and the heads and whatnot. I think
yeah,
it'd be easier than you think.
yeah. I'm just thinking of it more as like there's loads of different textures on
That's
it.
true.
Mm.
That is true.
It's not
They're
like
quite individual models.
yeah.
But I think I kind of need that as well because I paint a lot of 40k and a lot
Yeah.
of
Armor plates.
armor plates and whatnot.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it's just Marines or not. I mean, that's just
Mm.
kind of the crux of a lot of armies. It's a lot of rank and file
Mm.
that's quite samey. While obviously Cities of Sigmar have got their individual units, kind of across the range, there's a lot of variety.
There's an awful lot of bare faces in that army.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of eyes you got to paint there.
Yeah.
Eyeballs.
But other than that, I mean, the Nurgle stuff's cool and whatnot. But I don't know. I think the best box on the list, I hate to say it, is the Dark Angels one.
You could have been if
You
you'd have
hate
made
to say it.
if you'd have made the correct choice
Mm.
all those months ago, you could have been enjoying.
Could have been all up in that.
enjoying this
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like Knights as well, though. So
The Knights one is
The
good. I
Knights,
think
yeah.
that's
that'd be
the
quite
other one.
achievable as well. But again, I feel like it wouldn't test me much. I know how I would paint that. I'm going into like right now. I've already got like a paint recipe in my head. It's like right, okay, airbrush. I'm going to get all of the body sprayed with the metallic.
Yeah.
Then I do gloss varnish and then do a wash. And I get all the armor panels individually in temporary sub assemblies. I'd airbrush them all. I'd edge highlight them all. Put it all together. Done.
Yeah,
I don't feel like that's
10 minutes flat.
getting me away from
what you would normally.
what I
do.
would normally
Yeah.
do. So
I think in terms of popularity, that is the other one that's sold
Well, I
out
think
straight
they've-
away on.
do you think
Yeah.
that's just because of the value?
I think it's probably the more value
Yeah.
monetary.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah. I did before we did start the podcast. It was temporarily sold out.
Yeah.
So,
I think that.
I think the Blood Angels one, the Dark Angels one was as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they both sold out quite quick, like
Yeah.
everywhere pretty much.
Hopefully, though, on release date, your local game store might have one. Third-party retailers might
Yeah.
have one. So
Yeah, always check, even with these pre-orders,
Mm.
even if they're sold out everywhere online.
yeah,
Always check your local store.
check your local. Give them a call. No one calls anyone these days. Give them a call.
Yeah.
They want to hear
Just
from you.
say, hey
Say,
Siri,
Hey Siri, yeah.
call so-and-so shop.
Your phone's gonna
Nearly.
No, I've got
Really?
Siri turned off.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
use Siri.
Okay.
Everyone else who's listening, though, sorry about that.
Everyone's calling
Um,
each other.
Yeah, always just go and check, because the amount of times these boxes are like completely sold out, and then
there's
I'll
always
walk,
one in the back.
I'll walk into a shop. I walked into a shop, a local shop, fairly recently.
Local shop.
Found
for
a,
local people.
found a. It did feel a bit like that, yeah. And there was just one of these, like
Are
one of
you
the
local?
one of the Imperial Fist battle boxes that came
From
out,
ages
whatever
ago.
it was, like
Yeah.
from ages ago.
Yeah.
Like it was just like sitting
on a
there. And I was
shelf.
like, someone is like dying to try and find that somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just there it is.
no
Normal
one's
price.
walked down that aisle in 76 months.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
Dust.
So
Someone's
They're
looking on
always
eBay
there.
thinking, I'll buy that and put it on eBay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're always there. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be able to find them.
I think you'd be surprised as well, actually, at like places around you that stock Warhammer that aren't necessarily hobby shops.
There's a few,
Especially in the
there's
UK.
a few of these places, right? Have I told the story? I don't know if I've ever told the story about the South African
No, I want to hear about
supermarket.
We'll save it for the post show. I think we'll talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk,
Yeah, let's get to the
about
news.
South African
get to the
supermarket
news.
on the Patreon post show. Yeah, that's fine.
The news.
We
Thank
do
you,
Do
Paul.
you have a
Yeah.
jingle or anything?
You're supposed to do the
we have
thing.
to do the.
What?
Go on, do it again.
Okay.
All right.
I haven't been on when we've done the news
Well,
before.
just-
This is the first time experiencing the,
just
the
Do
news.
you not listen to the show?
I've been told about
Just
the
join
news.
in when you've caught the tune.
Okay.
Right. Should we do the news?
Oh, I'm not doing that.
There you go.
But like,
Brilliant, Joe.
You got the music degree or whatever. Can't you
Yeah,
come
why
up
am
with a
I
jingle?
doing that bit?
It's just funny and make you do it.
All right. Well, we'll come up with a jingle. George will have
That
a
was the
jingle next
jingle.
week.
Yeah, George
the
will write a
jingle.
professional jingle with the
It's
words
just a 3-minute
displayed.
guitar solo.
Just at the end, he goes, the news.
So Emperor's Children got not really leaked,
The
but
smallest reveal, I think, maybe ever.
Hmm.
3 shoulder pads, was it?
yep,
Fantastic.
They look good.
I mean, they do, yeah.
they did look good.
For a
Um,
3D render. Was that? I mean, they're not like actual shoulder pads, are they?
No, I
don't
think they're
think
just
so.
like showing off the.
They're just, it's
artistic
just them
impression.
basically like saying, we are doing it, by the way. Like just saying to everyone, oh, this is actually happening. Don't worry about it. Like we haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Which is
Little
cool.
teaser.
Quite a, have they done that before?
The only thing I can think of is when they first announced the Old World was going to be coming back, and then very shortly after, they did an article where they revealed some like 3D renders of the sprues
Right.
of the models coming up.
I don't know if this might be like one of those like weird like Mandela effects or something. So if I'm being gaslit by my own brain, please help me out in the comments. But I vaguely remember at Warhammer Fest last year when they announced a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff, them showing off like Mark III Marines as like digital CAD. Like, did that happen? Because I thought this in my head for so long. I can't find it.
In like the videos.
Or maybe when we was in the like auditorium. I don't know.
Just like images.
It's
up
just
on
it's
the
in my
screen.
head.
Yeah, the only time, unless you went in without me, the only thing I was in the auditorium for, well, twice, was the original 10th edition reveal and the Golden Demon ceremony. So I didn't see any of the heresy stuff, I don't think, from the actual auditorium. But no, I don't necessarily remember that, to be honest. Although I feel like we get a heresy reveal. Well, they do one like every week.
I feel like they showed off, again, I could be wrong, but I feel like they showed off upscaled Mark III and Mark IV.
Can't remember.
And then the Mark III came out, and then the Mark IV hasn't come out.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, maybe I just made this up. Did I just have like a weird dream?
Maybe you just made it up. Yeah.
Maybe you believe it now. It's just a thing.
Yeah. I can't really help. I'm sure the commenters will let us know about that.
Yeah.
Someone will know.
Okay, well, you talked about earlier the Slave to Darkness spearhead.
Yeah. See, I love this. So they're doing the Slaves to Darkness battle tome, I think, is going up for pre-order.
Abraxia's coming out, isn't he?
And yeah, the big
he's all that's an awesome miniature. That
so that model's already been out, obviously, but is now out on its own.
And most importantly,
and it's
the new Chaos Sorcerer.
The Chaos Sorcerer.
Most important reveal of the year.
Well,
why is this? Why?
Because I think it's cool, Paul. So therefore, it's the most important.
It is cool. It is cool, but your love for it is insane.
Yeah,
it's sick.
Yeah, but
Look
it's
at
like
him.
I know it's very good. Like it's cool. Look, I'm sitting here talking about my excitement for Slaves to Darkness stuff because I think it's really cool. But
fun fact: Slaves to Darkness was when I was deciding what to get into. I'd like decided I was going to do Warhammer, and I'm in the shop
like
and I'm
the
trying to
first thing
pick. It was the Slaves to Darkness. Was it called Start Collecting then?
Yeah.
Or the Stormcast Eternals one. And the guy convinced me to get the Stormcast Eternals one because it was a better value.
Good grief!
So you let money dictate your art. Outrageous.
Yeah.
The Slaves to Darkness stuff I think is so cool, and specifically, as I've spoken about before, I love the kind of the Dark Oath tribal
have they been
chaos.
Have like the
thing.
GW team just been listening to you all year and just making a
That's
bunch of
what I'm
boxes
saying, like,
that would
look,
be great? That's what would Joe like?
Yeah,
Joe
they're
the
also
advisor.
like if they could send me a few of them. I love the Dark Oath stuff. When it came to Underworld warbands, which we'll
You did a
also
warband
talk-
not long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, which we'll also talk about in a sec. That was like my one. Talking of bucket list models the other week, like that was like a bucket list warband kind of thing. I was like, that was the one I just loved painting that.
Yeah.
And you can't use them in Underworlds anymore. That particular warband, I don't think so. They haven't been. I'm giving and taking. I'm giving and taking here. So yeah, I think this is. I haven't really looked into the spearhead thing, but am I right in thinking it's akin to Combat Patrol?
I think.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same. Sort
I'm
of
not a
thing.
pro gamer like you, Joe,
Yeah.
but I've heard on the grapevine that they learned a lot from Combat Patrol, and Spearhead is kind of like a refined version. It's like it's an AOS version of what Combat Patrol is, but it's much more. Here's your army in a box. And they're more evenly matched against each other. I think.
Yeah. So that could be a cool little project at some point.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, like even when we've been playing games in the shop or something, it doesn't take long for our eyes to kind of drift over to the
you can't help it, can you?
iOS shelves and start talking about how much we love that army or that army.
I feel like 2025 podcast wise could be the year of AOS. It could be
maybe.
It could be about to see its day, I think.
Yeah.
I get the feeling just from the way we've all been talking about the models all year.
To be fair, like I think we've all unanimously spoke about how much we love the AOS models. It's just the fact it isn't the flagship game, is it? So and one of the games, 40K, has X amount of years of lore and investment.
I feel like the gap is closing. I think they've made big moves this year to start closing that gap.
I think, it's one of those things. It's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just going to take time. And I think
if they keep doing what they're doing, it's going to get to a point where even, deep 40K fans are going to be like, well, there's all this cool stuff over there. I'm missing out.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think this in terms of convincing me to get a spearhead, I think that's the one that
That's the
potentially
one
is
that
doing
will turn
it.
you.
Some cool new underworlds stuff.
Yeah.
As much as I'm a bit gutted that certain warbands you won't be able to use anymore. Every warband they're revealing at the minute looks cool.
Yeah, they're all pretty good.
The Seraphon one is very small.
Yeah,
3 models and then a little lizard chap.
that can happen. Like that's pretty. That's that. All the Stormcast warbands are like 3
Yeah,
models.
that's true.
Yeah.
No, that is true.
Some
Some of them are bigger though. It's quite inconsistent, isn't it?
of them are bigger.
Not,
I think
I don't mean like big. I know they're normally like
you go
6 at a push,
anywhere
but-
between 3 to 6 models,
Yeah.
something like that. But normally, if you've got 6 models, that does mean you've probably got 2 or 3 that are particularly tiny
Yeah.
or weak.
These are very cool. This is Jaws of, I don't know, say that Itzul?
It's all, I guess. Yeah.
They're sick. They're really cool.
Yeah, and the Nurgle one's quite cool as well. A lot more charactery.
Grandfather's Gardeners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. That is. There's some other sets there as well. Where they put in. Is it 4 warbands together?
Yeah, so what they've done is they've taken they've taken X amount of the older warbands. So basically, the problem with the release structure for Underworlds was that they would release. Basically, I don't know if they officially use the term season, but I'm going to call them seasons.
I think they call them seasons.
They are
So
now, yeah.
they would release, I think, 2 seasons a year. So like, and that would come with the Underworlds boxes that you're used to seeing, where they have a board and dice and 2 teams and a new name, like they had like Diachasm or
Fire and
James historically
Fire and Fire.
continually calls the game Night Vault rather than Underworlds because the first one was called Night Vault.
Yeah.
Or the first or second one was called Night Vault or something like that. So they would release those, and then it was kind of like new warbands were released with each season. And then when the new season came in, you couldn't buy those warbands anymore. And then we got to a point where like rules started changing. So then, although you could source the old warbands, now their cards didn't quite line up with the new rules and things like that. So this is the first, to my knowledge, this is the first actual refresh of Underworlds and the Underworlds range. This is like version 2 for the first time.
With that in mind, would you rate this as a good like jumping on point?
100%. Yeah. So I did a bit of a like feedback, like questionnaire thing that they put out to some of the creators, and just gave some thoughts, and I had a look through the box and things like that that is up for pre-order already, I think. Or they've done some, we'll have to cut that out if it's not, but through the box, and it's a very good jumping on point. Even just from like, not even just from like gaming point of view, like the whole point, what they're trying to stretch to now is that they want any warband that is usable to be available at Games Workshop. So that's what these boxes with 4 warbands in, these are all older warbands. So they're releasing 4 boxes of 4 warbands.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And these are all the older ones that they're keeping and updating the rules so you can use them in the new game.
That's a good idea.
So
why not release, like keep them around individually?
I think because
Why they end up this?
because they had to update like cards and things like that.
Right.
So I guess to potentially, number one, I think to separate them and say these aren't new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it kind of works as well, because I guess the idea with Underworlds is you don't really just have one Underworlds warband. You probably have a couple.
100%.
It's
No
like
one
having,
has one.
multiple magic decks or something like
It's
that.
actually a really cool. They flirted with this idea during the last season or the season before, where they released 4 older warbands in a box like this.
Yeah.
There was warbands you couldn't buy anymore with updated cards, and I got that straight away. Like I was all over that. So I think it's a cool idea. Very good jumping on point. They're bringing back quite a few of the cool warbands as well.
Nice.
Plenty of cool painting options in there.
Yeah.
I think all the boxes of the older warbands are themed, so it's like there's a chaos one.
Yeah, there's a couple here. There's like heroes and hunters, despoilers and demons.
Yeah, so
and
it's
stuff
like
that.
the 4 kind of, it's like, destruction, order, all of that. They're like separated into that. It's
Cool.
pretty cool.
That's quite a cool idea. Sweet.
Yeah. So everything we just mentioned basically is up for pre-order this Saturday, I think.
Yeah, if you're watching this when it comes out.
'Cause it was
Or
on the
it's,
Sunday. It was on the Sunday preview. Just
that or
gone,
it's been
so-
and gone if you're in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I always
Uh,
forget that there's people in the future.
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah,
Listening
months.
to us right
People,
now.
I still get messages occasionally, but I've just been catching up on the podcast. I'm on episode 30.
Yeah, it's like terrifying to think that they could
How
just
many
be,
hours that is?
They could just be listening to predictions that were completely wrong, and
Yeah.
they know
Yeah.
they're wrong.
Yeah.
They've been waffling on about this for a year and a half.
Yeah,
They still
yeah.
haven't got any closer to finishing.
Yeah, someone's going to be listening to like this when
I
I've
can't
al-
wait to see how Joe's army turns out.
I've-
Catches up.
I've already won. Yeah, but I've already won the army thing, and they'll be listening to this, and they'll know. Do you know what I mean? Or I won't have won it.
Or they'll be like, I'm hoping that by the time I've caught up, Joe's actually finished it, and then they
Yeah,
catch up and
they
you just
haven't,
haven't. No.
Joe wins armies on parade as well and things like that. He's
That is the way to
on.
top it off, isn't
Yeah.
it? Enter into armies on parade.
Question of the week time. Thank you everyone for submitting your questions for question of the week. If you have a question that you would like us to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please do leave it in the comments down below. This week, we have a question from Matthias who says, I noticed a lot of single-use products and other not so environmentally friendly stuff in the hobby and would be interested on your opinion and tips for more sustainability.
Well, I guess it's a little bit difficult, isn't it? With plastic miniatures, they're pretty much single use unless you strip them down and repaint them for the next 10 years or whatever you want to do. But I suppose the easiest way to make things sustainable is on your bases, because you don't have to buy anything to make a base. You can just go to your local woods and pick up some dirt and some old twigs, as long as they're properly sterilised.
Use more natural products. Is what you're saying.
As long as you sort of sterilise them, put them in the oven for a while and kill off the bacteria and any little bugs and things.
Well, famously, George let us all know that you can actually use garden slate as slate on your bases.
That's
as well.
I remember.
So,
yes, yeah.
so
Using
that's
slate
a sustainability
as
hack. In
Really
itself.
won't let that go, will you?
Yeah.
No, it's one of my favourite moments.
I
'Cause
mean-
it's not even that bad. It's a cool little trick.
No.
I just like winding you up
And
for
the
it.
best thing about using slate from your garden is that you can paint it so it looks like, like slate.
Actual, yeah,
So
slate.
Yeah.
I
really good.
kind of thought of this more along the lines of like the tools and things that people use, or not even the tools, but the accessories that we use to paint. In that, we recommend quite a lot plastic shot glasses as handles and things like that. Where like I'd rather personally not be buying loads of plastic shot glasses all the time. Do you know what I mean? And I think what a lot of it comes down to is just a lot of this stuff is reusable,
Yeah.
but you just have to make sure you take care of it when you're using it.
Yeah.
I think there is like a lot of a thing of like, if something, I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and he's like, he uses cheap brushes, and he's happy to use cheap brushes because he just like annihilate them, and then I'll just buy new ones, kind of thing. And it's like, I get that if you're comfortable with that, like, but if you're talking about sustainability, I think you just have to look at this stuff and work out. You kind of have to sit down and work out, how can I get as much use out of this as possible.
Yeah.
Like one of the things, and alternative products, because one of the things that I do use that I hate that I use, but I haven't really managed to find an appropriate alternative, is like the disposable like gloves.
Yeah.
The like
Latex gloves.
latex gloves. Having to buy a box of like 100 of those. Don't get me wrong, they last me ages because I don't paint as much, and I mostly use it when I'm just spraying.
Yeah.
But I haven't managed to find like reusable latex gloves that are actually still like you can actually work with them. They're not super baggy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
So what about just getting a pair of marigolds?
yeah, but they're like a bit like they're like baggy. They're
No,
like,
but if
they're
you're
like
just
too
using it,
big.
like you just said, if you're just using it for spraying,
yeah,
you're just going to put that on just a spray. You can just take it off and use it as many times as you
yeah, I
want.
guess you could. But
What
it's
about
just
like a big welding glove?
yeah, I could do. Yeah.
But,
But you get what I'm talking
Yeah,
I
about.
do get it.
like-
I actually, so I have a few things to note on this. Firstly, just quickly on the latex glove thing, I do actually reuse mine like a lot, because
I just can't.
if you get the powder free ones
Yeah,
and you turn them inside out,
yeah.
as you're like, because they're hard to get off without turning this. If you turn them inside out, you just you can put them on inside out.
Yeah.
So you've got like 2 goes out of them.
Are you turning them out? Just keep doing it. For
Honestly,
months on
Keep
end.
going inside out.
honestly, no joke. I will reuse gloves like for a whole week,
Yeah.
like, and I paint most evenings.
Yeah.
So that's just something to know. You'd need like decent ones, and I know it's a bit hard to predict
Sometimes
the
they
quality of the
split
ones you
quite-
buy because they
yeah,
can
yeah.
split and whatnot. But I do try to reuse them as much as possible, and also save you money as well.
I
Because
mean, even your paint pots you can reuse, can't you? Once you've used it, stick some blue tack on it, and you've got a handle to hold whatever.
Yeah.
I use old ones for painting heads and things. Just blue tack the head to it. And,
Yeah,
you know,
and then
tossing it.
also I think the biggest thing to combat any of this stuff is just waste. Like the amount of stuff that
Recycling it properly, yeah.
people like having a hobby that's an outlet, and that's fair enough. But just in the spirit of sustainability, buying every new box that comes out, buying when a new paint range comes out, buying the whole big mega set and getting every single paint that's in it, just accumulating a lot of stuff that you're probably not going to use all of it, especially with paints and things, and you might not want a lot of the stuff that's in there anyway. And then even if you do resell it, like how many times has that box been like shipped around, and you know it's someone else could have bought it that would have actually used it and whatnot. So I think just trying to be more mindful with just how much stuff you're getting and whether or not you actually really fully need it or not. I'm not saying like going to the extreme of just like never getting any stuff, but I think a lot of people get swept up with like random hobby gadgets and just a lot of rubbish, and then getting it and not actually using it all up fully, especially with paint. Like use it all up fully before you buy another one, rather than having like a drawer full of, you know, absolutely loads of them. Little things like that I think make a bigger difference than you might think. And even if you're not super into environmental stuff, do it for the savings, the money.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, even that's, I mean, even just something as simple as a water pot, like we said before, haven't we? Like these old jam jars and things. It's just, you know, that's helping, isn't it?
I think
in some small way.
Part of it in that way, in terms of reusing things and repurposing things, that is luckily almost built into the hobby.
Yeah.
Like people, mostly for the savings, like you say, it's an expensive hobby. I'm not going to get into that conversation again. But
there is always that side of you that goes, oh, I could use that for something else.
Exactly. Yeah. I just think, being conscious. And also, one of the things I learned outside of Warhammer in terms of caring about sustainability and environmentalism and things like that, is to stop looking at it as me not caring isn't going to make a difference, and to start looking at it as like your own personal input, just to make yourself feel good and make yourself feel like you've done your bit, kind of thing. And that can be any level of sustainability. Like you say, if you do your little glove trick and you save yourself buying an extra box of gloves once a year or something, then you know that's a little tick for you, kind of thing. So it's kind of you set your own barriers, don't you, as to what you want to achieve and how
far you want to go with it.
How much you want to.
Because, like, you know, I think, well, if I want to buy that box set, it's got to come from the US or something. So it's got to get on a plane to come here. So you think, well, do it. You know, how far do you want to
things
take?
like that? You might even consider, okay, maybe I won't buy these things online. I might go to a shop and get that.
Even just walk into the shop.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes away.
So that's things
helps.
outside of your hobby table.
Yeah.
You can almost use that to like counteract your
offset
unsustainable practices on the hobby table.
Carbon offsetting.
Weekly tradition on the podcast is, of course, hobby hacks. We know it's a bit of a fan favorite. It's where we share a quick tip, hobby hack with you that you can implement into your painting. I've got a painting focused one this week. A lot of these have been like build focused and, you know, products and whatnot. But I've got a painting specific.
I think the nature of a hack kind of lends itself to like the building and things like that.
I suppose so.
Isn't it more like a shortcut? Isn't a hack a shortcut?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like in general, because we don't want to take shortcuts when it comes to painting, do we? Because
I like it.
So, because we're all professional painters here.
Yeah, well.
And me, I'm a gamer as well. But so I think, naturally it just comes up because they're like quick little tips. It always comes up with like building
slightly
stuff,
more elevated, isn't it? Now,
So, on the back of Critique Clinic and some other armies and stuff that I've been painting over the course of the year, I found that a lot of people struggle with highlighting metallics.
Yes.
In part, I think where this comes from is, you know how metallics photo are a little bit different than they do in the hand. So I will see people all the time, and again, myself guilty of this. They're clearly capable of doing like some really nice sharp edge highlights. I can see it on the red armor on the model. And then you look at the metallics and the lines are wavy, thick, thin, a bit all over the place, look a bit ropey, not quite as sharp and refined.
Yeah.
And often that's illustrated that it's not actually a brush control issue because they've demonstrated it elsewhere on the piece. It's often an issue with metallics are quite tricky to work with because you're seeing real reflections because it's the mica flake in the paint under your lamp. And then there's also the reflections that you're trying to paint on to like add vibrancy and brightness to the metallic surface, make it look shiny and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little trick for this. If you matte varnish your metallics, either by a brush if it's not a fully metallic scheme, or you could rattle can / airbrush if it's an actual metallic scheme like you're doing Necrons or something. If you completely matte varnish them, kill the metallics, like they look awful, right?
Yeah.
Then go in with your metallic paint to do your highlights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. One, that they'll be easier to see because the paint's not reflective anymore. So you can paint it nice and sharp and see what's going. And also because what you're painting on is obviously not had the matte varnish on it.
Yeah.
It's shinier as well.
Shiny,
So it's really, really, really easy to see what you're painting on.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've painted it on and you've done your nice, sharp, clean highlights because you can see what you're doing, then you go in afterwards, satin varnish the lot, the metallics come back to life, and you've got some nice, clean metallics that photograph nicely.
Do you not lose those highlights though again?
They come back. So after you do the satin varnish at the end, the originally matte varnished metallic,
the base layer,
the luster comes back, and then it's going to have the same finish as the highlights that you painted on because it's the varnish is being put on afterwards, so it applies to everything underneath it, if that makes sense. So everything will have the same finish after the fact.
Yeah.
Maybe
I like it.
I'll give it a go.
Rare case where we've done, it's ticking all the boxes. We've done a painting hobby hack that feels new. I haven't really heard anyone say that before. I think it's a good hobby hack. I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah. And it definitely works. Even if you've just got like an Aquila or something, it hasn't got to be like the whole model. Because like I said, you can just brush it on, matte varnish.
And it was a hack that you thought of prior to coming on the podcast rather than
it's
flailing
the
around.
golden standard.
It is. You're setting the bar way too high.
Yeah.
In front of our new emperor.
Yeah, okay. Glad you like that one.
Yeah, very good.
Well,
Nice.
I'll give it a go, I think, because I do the same thing with the, like you suggested with the metallics. I always put everything on too thick, and I don't even see the highlights half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it before.
What the heck am I doing?
I've done a fully metallic Blood Angels captain for the preview a couple of months back. Like I brought it in to photograph and I photoed it. I'm like, oh, this looks like really different than in the hand. Not only because it's metallic, but like you can see mistakes that I couldn't see in hand. And I had to go back and do a little bit of finessing.
You put more highlight on because you can't see it.
Yeah.
So you just put more. That's why you're not really great big.
But obviously, we like to take photos of stuff and share it online and whatnot. And then also, even in hand, under different lighting conditions, they are visible, the mistakes.
Yeah.
So it just makes it easier on yourself. It's like a variable that you can just remove and just focus on the painting. Because if you're concentrating on the painting and the application of, the brush stroke and doing things nice and neat and tidy, and you're not having to exercise your brain by trying to look at what you're doing, it's just a variable you can just completely write off.
A humble matte varnish.
Yeah.
Ultra matte ideally, but matte will help.
Yeah.
The matter, the better.
Nice. It's at the heart of the matter.
Okay. On that note, I think we'll round out the show there. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's episode of Paint Perspective. We're going to jump over now to the bonus post show for our patrons. So if you want to get more podcast content in your life, check the link in the description of this episode to our Patreon. You can find all the details over there. We do extended versions of the podcast completely ad-free, get exclusive content, all that good stuff. Otherwise, we will see you next week. All right, tell us about the South African hobby shop.
Do you know what? I genuinely, have I not done this story on the podcast?
No, I've remembered this.
So basically, this was a particularly weird day in my life because it was the day where I had